Hi everyone, my name is Julia Tang and I'm a physical therapist. In addition to being a physical therapist, I also love playing ultimate frisbee, and unfortunately I've seen several people strain their hamstrings while playing or doing track workouts recently, especially while sprinting. So I wanted to put together this video to give you a little bit of an exercise progression and how to kind of guide you on the process of recovering from acute hamstring strain. So the action of the hamstring is to extend the hip and also to bend the knee. So one of the reasons that we often see this we see hamstring strains during sprinting is when you're sprinting, you're really powerfully driving that leg forward, kicking out the foot, and then having to pull back for the next stroke. So here, the hamstring is getting stretched with this hip flexion and with that knee extension, and then it has to contract really powerfully to pull your foot down. And that's often when these hamstring strains are happening. They can happen really up high near the sit bone or the ischial tuberosity where it originates. They can also happen in the middle of the hamstring, the muscle belly there, and then down just below the knee where it inserts into the lower leg. So usually the most straightforward to rehab are kind of that middle of the hamstring muscle belly. It's a little bit trickier up high and down low, but that's okay. That's why we have this exercise progression, just to guide you through on your journey to recovery. Of course, I would really recommend getting in touch with your local physical therapist just to get an idea for how to appropriately progress through each stage of recovery here. And these exercises are just going to be a guideline to kind of help you along the way here. So first things first, when you have an acute soft tissue injury, if you haven't seen my ankle sprain video, I'm going to go over this new acronym here. RICE is a little bit outdated, and now we're going by the Peace and Love acronym. And there's a nice article and infographic from the British Journal of Sports Medicine, and the link to that is below in the description, so check that out for a really nice infographic. We'll just go through really quick here. So peace and love, the P in peace stands for protect. So after you strain your hamstring, really just try and avoid overstraining it again. So you don't really want to be excessively stretching the hamstring, and you may have to shorten your strides when you're walking just to avoid pulling it again. Since the hamstring muscle has essentially been overstretched or overpulled, that's why you don't want to do anything that's going to compromise that muscle farther. E is elevate, so if you've got a lot of swelling, elevation is good to help with that. A is avoid anti-inflammatories, including ice. So this is one of the ones that surprises people, but the inflammatory process is actually the healing process. So that's how your muscle is going to repair itself, that's how your body heals, is through this inflammatory process. And when you take anti-inflammatories like ibuprofen, Advil, or Aleve, naproxen, or when you ice, that stops the blood flow, which really slows down this healing process. So unless the pain is really unmanageable or the swelling is really unmanageable, try and stay away from those NSAIDs, like those anti-inflammatory medications, and stay away from icing. So that one, check out the infographic on that one for that one below, because that's the one that surprises people the most. The next letter is C, that's compression. So that actually did stay the same from RICE. Compression elevation, that's helpful for swelling. You can just put like an ACE wrap or a hamstring sleeve around your leg, and oftentimes that will help feel a little bit more supported. And then the second E in peace is education. So your body is very good at healing. You don't need to do all these crazy passive modalities to it. Just let it do its thing, let the inflammatory process happen, and it will heal. So now moving on to love. L is for load. So once you've protected the hamstring, given it a couple days to chill out, then you want to start loading the hamstring in order to rebuild that tensile strength so you can go back to all your activities, including sprinting. So this is going to be a very progressive load. You don't go from 0 to 100, and the exercise in this video hopefully will help with that. O is optimism, so you have to believe that it's going to get better, because it will get better. Your body's really good at healing, so be optimistic about your recovery. V is vascularization, so you want to be doing non-painful cardio just to get blood flow throughout your whole body, which again, blood flow is everything. It's really going to help the healing process here. So for hamstring strain, some non-painful cardio options may include biking. You could also do like a really low stepper as long as you're not kicking out your leg and really flexing your hip here. So probably not like the full-on Stairmaster, but if you've got one of those low step machines at the gym, you could probably try that. Or even like doing a rowing machine at reduced distance, so you're not getting your knee all the way in and extending all the way out, maybe kind of like a half stroke there. You can also do upper body cardio like swimming, You can do battle ropes if you have access to those at the gym, or an upper body ergometer, like an upper arm bike, something like that, or a rope climb. But try and do any non-painful cardio that you can. And then the last E in love is for exercise. Again, exercise. I love exercise. And so this video should ideally give you some exercise to help progress you back to your full capacity after having this hamstring strain. So with that being said, let's get started with the exercises. One of the first things to do in the early stages, again, you just want to protect the hamstring, don't overstrain it again. However, you do want to maintain as much range of motion as possible. So there's a couple ways to do that. One, if you're sitting in a chair, you've got like a desk job or just a chair, gently you can straighten and bend the knee. And so you're not going to kick it all the way out straight immediately. Just go through your available range of motion, and then you can go a little bit farther as is tolerated. And so again, we're not like holding a stretch here, you're not like trying to pull on your foot. We're just trying to work through that available range of motion so you don't lose it even more. And this should be non-painful. The other one you can do lying on the ground is, if you pull your knee up to about 90 degrees here, keeping your foot relaxed, again, slowly straighten and bend the knee just to your tolerance. So again, you're not kicking up really fast, you're just slowly straightening out here. And then as you get better and better, you should notice that you can get farther and farther throughout the days and the weeks until you can really fully extend that knee up here. Okay? So then the next stage is a little bit of strengthening. So since we're already on the ground, we'll start with that. The goal is to activate and maintain strength in all the muscles around the hamstring without overly loading the hamstring while it's still healing. So one thing you can do is a glute bridge. So lay on your back, lift your hips up off the ground. This is targeting the glutes. If you notice that's bothering the hamstring, try bringing in your feet a little bit closer, lift your toes off the ground to focus on the glutes, and then lift your hips up from there. And once this gets easy, you can start doing single leg bridges later down the line, just to get a little bit more glute work and a little bit of hamstring work in there. The next thing you can do is going to be standing. You still want to maintain that quad and glute strength, so you can just do mini squats. You're not trying to do like a big hip hinge here, just straight up, straight down. And then as you get more and more comfortable, you can go into a full squat here. But again, we're really just trying to maintain all the muscles around the hamstring without irritating the hamstring itself. The last thing you can do that shouldn't be too irritating on the hamstring is a low step up. So not a really high step, like don't step onto a chair or a box. This is only 8 inches. Standard height stairs are usually 6 to 8 inches. So if you just do a low step up and then come down, that ideally shouldn't irritate the hamstring. If it does, you might have to find a lower step or hold off on this till later, totally fine. Then, to gradually start loading the hamstring itself, we can start with isometrics. So this means that we're contracting the muscle without moving it. This can be helpful for gentle loading as well as pain relief. So if you just sit in a chair with a leg like this, what you're going to do is you're going to try and curl your foot back, but instead of going through the full range of motion, you're going to hold on the chair leg here. So it's as if you're doing this motion, but you just run into the chair leg instead. This you can hold 30 to 45 seconds. You don't have to be really cranking into it. Just gently hold to your tolerance, 30 to 45 seconds, usually 2 or 3 rounds of this, and that can really help with some pain here. So just a gentle seated hamstring isometric. Another option for this is if you're lying on your back. You can elevate your feet on a couch or a chair or a bench and just lift up into a straight leg bridge and hold here. And this again should be pretty well tolerated. If that's getting too easy, you can always go to that straight leg isometric hamstring hold here. So that's for the isometrics. Another option for really targeting the glutes without getting the hamstrings as much is a hip thrust. So you're going to put your shoulder blades on, again, a bench or a couch or something. Pull your feet in, look between your knees, not up to the ceiling, and you're just going to lift your hips off the ground. This is a hip thrust. So here you should really feel the glutes working. And again, once that gets a little easier, you can always do the single leg version. So that's phase 1, strengthening all the muscles around the hamstrings, and really not trying to irritate the hamstring itself. So now we're going to get into phase 2, where you start progressively loading the hamstrings. So at this stage, you should be able to walk normally without any pain. You may even be able to do kind of a short, a jog with a shorter stride length. So you're really not trying to stretch out here into your full length stride. Not yet. So now we're going to start to just slowly load the hamstrings. So some things you can do in standing. One is going to be an RDL, or Romanian deadlift. So it's just a hip hinge. You're going to unlock the knees and just push the hips back, keeping the back straight. And you may start out pretty small right here. This should be not painful again, or very minimally painful. And then as you get better throughout this stage, you can go farther and farther and farther until you're at full range RDL. If that is still very irritating, you can do more of a conventional deadlift with a little bit more knee bend, just to take some of the tension off the hamstrings here while still working the posterior chain. By now you should be able to do a full depth squat. So now we can start doing some split squats as well. 1 foot forward, 1 foot back, and you're just going to go straight up and down. And this front leg, since your hip is in this flexed position here, that's going to be getting the higher portion of the hamstring as well to work. And I would do that on both sides. It's going to work the hamstring more on the front leg, but it's always good to keep the quads and the glutes working on both legs too. Again, for this standing hamstring, or for the high hamstring strain, you may want to incorporate something like higher step-ups. So find a chair or a box or a bench that's about your knee height, maybe a little bit higher, and you're going to do a step up and then down. So this will target a little bit more of that high hamstring close to that sit bone. And again, find a box that's not painful to step up onto here. That's an option for that. And then one of the higher level phase 2 exercises is going to be a single leg RDL. So you're going to stand on 1 foot and hinge at the hip. First, you're going to start probably with a smaller range here, and then as you get better and better, you can get all the way down. So your back is this is limited by your flexibility. So ideally you can get to your back is almost parallel to the ground, but it's also going to be limited by kind of how much mobility you have in the first place. However, doing these exercises can improve your mobility too. It's called eccentric strengthening. So as you lower, you're lengthening the hamstring and working at the same time, and that can actually improve your range of motion too. So you could come out of this even better than before. So some lying down exercises to start working on the hamstrings. First one, slider here. If you're on your back, you can transition. Instead of just doing the glute bridge here, we're going to do a glute bridge with a hamstring walkout. So here, you just start walking out a little bit and then back in, and you'll feel your hamstrings kick in. So then you can walk out pretty much all the way straight and walk back in. So go to your tolerance. Again, you'll be able to walk out farther and do more reps as you get stronger here. The next thing you can do are sliders. So I have a couple of furniture sliders here. You can also use socks on a hardwood floor, or put pieces of cardboard on the carpet. So to start off, you're going to put each heel on a slider, lay on your back, lift up. Start with just sliding the injured leg out and in. Make sure you can tolerate this. And then you can go for a double leg slider. You can do sliders like this. And it should all be pretty slow and controlled at this point. We're not adding speed just yet. And then if you get really advanced, you can do a single leg hamstring slider, which that one's pretty challenging. So good luck with that. If you don't have sliders, there are other ways to target the hamstring. You can do, again, that straight leg bridge. Instead of just holding, you can go up and down. You can do single leg up and down. And to target the hamstring a little more, bend your knees here. You can go up and down here. And then you can also do, again, that single leg, heel elevated bridge here. So all those are going to target the hamstrings quite nicely. So now, the third stage of recovery. Those are some for the first stage, or for the second stage. For all those standing exercises like the RDLs, single leg RDLs. As you get stronger and stronger, you can start adding weight to that, but we also want to add some speed. So that's really important. Most likely you strain the hamstring doing something quick, so you want to rehab the hamstring to handle those quick forces. So some of the double leg, you can start adding some tempo into the RDLs and deadlifts. So instead of just going slow down, slow up, you can go slow on the way down, quick on the way up, so like a 3, 2, 1, 1 tempo. And you can also, it's very important to do the reverse. So quick down, 3, 2, 1, up. So especially doing that quick drop and catch, that's really important for when your hamstring has to pull back during that sprinting motion. So you can do that double leg. You can also do it single leg. So get your balance first. You can do slow down, quick up, which is a good one to do, but it's also important to do quick down and then slow on the way up. So you're working on catching yourself with your hamstrings on the way down. The next exercise, which is kind of fun, these are called tantrums, and they look pretty much exactly what they sound like. So there's a couple more videos in the description below, since I don't have an exercise ball with me, but you can take a look at those for some other fun variations. One of them is seated, like kicking into a ball here underneath the box, and then you can also do them on your stomach. If you have someone to hold the ball onto you, you just kind of kick into the ball here. Some versions you can do at home are again on this couch, or if you have a really thick pull-up assist band strung across a squat rack, this could work as well. You can do a straight leg tantrum, so you lift your hips and then kick like this, keeping your hips lifted. And then to make it a little harder, you're gonna walk your butt in, have this bent leg position, and from here, keep your knees bent and do a tantrum like that. So those are kind of fun. They are very challenging, but it's really important to get that speed component back in here. So one of the last exercises for a hamstring strain is the Nordic hamstring curl. So this one has been shown to be effective at reducing the risk of hamstring strains in the first place, and it's also one of the best exercises to target the hamstring in the long run. It does require a little bit of setup. So you need a pad in front of your knees, you need something really heavy to hold down your ankles, or preferably a person to hold down your ankles, and then if you're like me and can't go down all the way to the ground, a chair to go down to. So I just got some padding for my ankles under this chair, and some padding for my knees here. So the goal of a Nordic hamstring curl is you're going to keep your body all the way straight and just lower down as far as you can using your hamstrings. And usually you can start with the eccentric component, so lowering, and then you get to the chair and you can push yourself back up. Ideally, this thing that you're lowering to gets lower and lower and lower till it's to the ground. And also ideally, you can stop at the chair and then raise yourself back up using your hamstrings. So the eccentric and the concentric component. These are very difficult, so usually I start with like 3 or 4 reps, and most people are not going to go more than about 6 to 8 ultimately. But some of the best ways to do this is if you've got a partner, they can hold down your ankles, you come down, hit a box, and then push yourself back up. So that is the Nordic hamstring curl, one of the hardest ones here, but very impressive if you can do a full one. So at this stage, once you've added some weight to your RDLs, single leg RDLs, you're doing all this speed component, speed training for the hamstrings, now is the time where you can start getting back into sprinting. So ideally you have been running this whole time at more of a moderate pace, and especially something you can include in your warm-ups for running are Frankensteins and then a quicker Frankenstein, so kick up, pull down. This is another quick hamstring thing that you can add into your warm-up here just to activate those hamstrings. But now's the time where you can start doing some strides, stretch out your step length, stretch out into that sprint, and then gradually progress back up into a sprint there. So again, this video is meant to just give you some examples of how you could start getting back into sprinting and all your exercises after having a hamstring strain, but I would really recommend getting in touch with your local physical therapist, setting up some appointments so they can really guide you through the rehab process. So that's it. Hope that was helpful, and thanks for watching.